The day my husband Michael came home with that nervous smile I knew so well, I knew something was about to change drastically in our lives. What I didn't imagine was that his next words would trigger a battle that would test not only our 15-year marriage, but also my ability to defend myself after a lifetime of always being the one who gave in, the one who always put others first. Hello, Grandma's Diary family. My name is Patricia. I'm 42 years old, and what I'm about to tell you completely changed my perspective on love, family, and above all, on the respect I deserve as a woman and as a person. To understand the magnitude of what happened, I need to tell you a bit about my history. I met Michael when I was 25, at a time when my professional life was taking off. I worked as a project manager at a multinational tech company, made very good money, and had just bought my first condo with my savings. I was independent, confident, and had clear plans for my future. Michael appeared in my life like a whirlwind of romance and promises. He was charismatic, fun, and seemed to genuinely admire my independence and professional success. "I love that you're so strong and determined," he would tell me in those first few months of dating, while we had dinner at some restaurant that I was paying for because he was between jobs. "You're not like other women who are just looking for someone to support them. You're different, Patricia. You're special." And I, naive and in love, believed every word. I didn't see the warning signs that now, with hindsight, are so obvious. Michael came from a family where his mother, Linda, was the undisputed matriarch, a woman who had raised her 3 children alone after. Her husband abandoned them, but instead of teaching them independence and responsibility, she had spoiled them rotten, turning them into men who expected the women in their lives to do everything for them. We got married 2 years after we met. By then I had sold my condo, and with that money, plus my savings and a loan I took out solely in my name because Michael had bad credit from some misunderstandings in his past, I bought the house where we live to this day. A beautiful 2-story property in a quiet residential neighborhood with a garden, a pool, and enough space for the family we planned to build. The day I signed the papers for the house, Michael was by my side, smiling and hugging me. "Our home," he said excitedly. "The place where we'll raise our children." But when the notary asked if we would both sign as owners, Michael quickly intervened. No, it's better just in Patricia's name. You know, just in case something happens with my credit problems, I don't want to complicate things." I should have seen that red flag waving right in front of my eyes, but I was so in love, so convinced that we were building something together, that I didn't give it a second thought. We were a team, right? What did it matter whose name was legally on the house if it was our home? The first few years of marriage were relatively calm, although looking back, I can see how the toxic patterns that I normalized were established. Michael eventually got a job, but he never lasted long anywhere. There was always an incompetent boss who didn't value his talent, or envious colleagues who sabotaged him. Meanwhile, I continued to climb the ladder in my career, working long hours, but also taking care of most of the household chores because Michael was too stressed looking for work, or too tired from the job he had at the time. Linda, my mother-in-law, was a constant presence in our lives. She lived in a small apartment on the other side of town, but Michael insisted on visiting her at least 3 times a week. "She's my mother, Patricia," he would say when I suggested we might cut back on visits to have more time as a couple. "She gave me everything. I can't abandon her now that she's older," and I gave in. I always gave in. Because that's how I was raised. To be understanding, to be the one who keeps the peace, to not be the bad guy in the story. My own mother had repeated it to me endlessly. "A successful marriage requires the woman to be flexible, my daughter. You can't be so harsh. Men need to feel supported." We had 2 children, Sarah, who is now 12, and Daniel, who is 10. With the arrival of the children, the dynamics at home worsened. I was still the main breadwinner for the family, but now I was also a full-time mother. Michael helped when he could, but Linda had clearly established that raising children was women's work. "Oh, Patricia," my mother-in-law would tell me every time she saw me exhausted, "it's just that women today want to do everything. Work like men and then complain they're tired. In my day, women knew their place and we were happy." I bit my tongue, swallowing the words that wanted to come out. I wanted to tell her that her place had left her abandoned with 3 children to support, that my job wasn't wanting to be a man, but a necessity to keep this family afloat. But I said nothing. I smiled, nodded, and carried on. The breaking point began 6 months ago. Linda, who was now 72, started having health problems. Nothing serious at first, just high blood pressure and some diabetes that required monitoring. Michael was worried, understandably, and started spending even more time with her. I tried to be supportive, even offered to pay for a nurse to visit her daily, but Linda flatly refused. "A stranger in my house? Never," she exclaimed dramatically when I proposed the idea. "I have 3 children, I don't need charity from anyone." "Michael, honey, tell your wife to save her money. Family takes care of family." That's when the hints started. Little comments from Michael about how lonely his mother was, how dangerous it was for her to live alone at her age, how big our house was for just 4 people. I pretended not to understand where the conversation was going, naively hoping the topic would just go away. But that afternoon in March, exactly 3 months ago, Michael came home with that nervous smile and sat across from me in the living room while I was reviewing some work documents. "Patricia, my love," he began, and I already knew something big was coming because he only called me my love when he wanted something. "We need to talk about Mom." I put the documents aside and looked at him directly. "What's wrong with your mom?" "Well, you know she hasn't been well, and living alone. It worries me a lot. I've been thinking, and I think the best solution is for her to come live with us." The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I felt my heart start to beat faster, my hands tensing on my knees. I took a deep breath before answering. "Michael, that's a very big decision. We need to talk about it calmly, consider all the options." "I've already considered everything," he interrupted, getting up from the couch with a confidence that surprised me. "She's my mother, Patricia. I'm not going to leave her alone. I already talked to her and she's very excited. She can take the guest room on the 1st floor so she doesn't have to climb stairs." "You already talked to her?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You already told her yes without consulting me?" "I don't need your permission to bring my mother into my house," he replied, and that's when everything changed. "My house." "Excuse me?" I stood up. 2. Feeling the indignation starting to boil inside me. "Your house." "I meant our house." He corrected himself quickly, but the damage was done. "Don't make a drama out of this, Patricia. She's my mother. What kind of son would I be if I left her alone when she needs me?" "The same kind of son you've been all these years while she was living perfectly fine in her apartment," I retorted, surprising myself with my firmness. "Michael, I'm not saying we don't take care of your mother, but bringing her here to live is a huge change. What about the children? What about our privacy? What about asking me what I think before making decisions that affect the entire family? The children adore their grandmother. They'll love having her here. And as for privacy, Patricia, don't be selfish. She's an elderly woman who needs care, not a stranger. I'm not being selfish, I'm being practical. Your mother is not. Easy to." "Be careful what you say about my mother," he yelled, and it was the first time in our marriage Michael had raised his voice to me like that. "She is a saint who sacrificed everything for her children. The least I can do is give her a decent home in her final years." "And the home she has isn't decent?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Michael, we can pay for a better place if that's the problem. We can get her help." "It's already decided," he cut me off with a coldness I didn't recognize. "She's moving in this weekend. I already hired the movers." "You hired the movers?" Now I was in shock. "With what money?" "With our savings, obviously." "What kind of question is that?" "The savings that I built up working 60 hours a week while you've been between jobs for half of our marriage?" Michael's face turned red with anger. "Oh, here we go again. The great Patricia, the provider, the one who pays for everything. You know what? I'm sick of you rubbing your money in my face. I am your husband, this is my house too, and my mother will live here whether you like it or not." It was in that moment that something inside me clicked. 15 years of accumulated frustration, of unsaid words, of unrecognized sacrifices, it all crystallized into absolute clarity. "You're right," I said with a calm that unnerved him. "You don't need my permission. Do whatever you want." Michael seemed surprised by my apparent surrender, but his expression quickly changed to one of arrogant satisfaction. "I'm glad you're seeing reason. You'll see, it will be the best for everyone." I went to our bedroom without another word, but my mind was already working. That night, while Michael snored beside me, satisfied with his victory, I was on my laptop reviewing documents I hadn't looked at in years. the house papers, the deed, the loan documents. Everything, absolutely everything, was solely in my name. The next few days were an Oscar-worthy performance. I acted normal, even helped prepare the guest room for Linda. Michael was so happy, so proud of having put his wife in her place, that he didn't notice I had taken several days off work, or that I had been making long calls in the garden, far from where he could hear me. On Friday afternoon, the day before Linda's scheduled move, I put my plan into action. I had consulted with my lawyer, a brilliant woman named Caroline, who had been recommended by a coworker who had gone through a messy divorce. Patricia, Caroline had told me in our first meeting, "Legally, that house is yours. Neither your husband nor his mother have any right to it, but you need to be strategic in how you handle this." Following her advice, that Friday I prepared all the necessary documents. When Michael came home from work, one of his temporary jobs that surely wouldn't last more than a few months, I was waiting for him in the living room with the papers on the coffee table. "What is this?" he asked, looking at the documents with suspicion. "Sit down, Michael. We need to talk." "Patricia, if this is another attempt to convince me about Mom—" "No," I interrupted him firmly. "This is about our house. Or rather, about my house." I took the deed and put it in front of him. "See this? This house is solely in my name. I bought it, I pay for it, and legally, I am the sole owner." Michael laughed nervously. "So? We're married, Patricia. What's yours is mine." "Actually, no. I spoke with a lawyer. In our state, since your name is not on the deed and I bought it before the marriage exclusively with my money, this is my separate property. You have no legal right to it." The color started to drain from Michael's face. "You went to a lawyer? Are you threatening me?" "I'm not threatening anything. I'm just stating facts. And the fact is, if your mother moves in here tomorrow, it will be under my conditions." "Your conditions?" He spat the words out like they were poison. "Yes, my conditions. First, it will be temporary, maximum 6 months while we find a permanent solution. Second, she will contribute to household expenses, at least for her utilities and food. Third, she will respect the rules of this house, which include not criticizing how I manage my home or raise my children. And fourth, if she causes any trouble or conflict, she leaves immediately." Michael jumped up, furious. "This is ridiculous. You can't put conditions on my mother." "I'm not putting them on her. I'm putting them on you. Because if you don't agree, you have 2 options. You cancel your mother's move, or you leave with her." "Are you kicking me out of my house?" "It's not your house, Michael. It never has been. I've been generous sharing it with you all these years, but your attitude the last few days has shown me that you don't appreciate anything I do for this family. You're a manipulator," he shouted, "a control freak who uses her money to—" "To what?" I interrupted, standing up too. "To support my family? To pay the bills while you jump from job to job? To ensure our children have a roof over their heads? Yes, Michael, I use my money for all of that. And I'm tired of you acting like it's something I should be ashamed of." He stared at me, jaw tight, fists clenched. For a moment I thought he was going to hit something, or worse, hit me. But then he did something I didn't expect. He took out his phone and called his mother. "Mom," he said, without taking his eyes off me. "Yes, it's me. I need you to hear this. I'm here with Patricia, and she says—" He proceeded to tell her a completely distorted version of our conversation, painting me as a monster who didn't want to help a poor, sick old woman. I could hear Linda's screams from where I was standing. Words like ungrateful, harpy, witch floated through the air. Michael put the phone on speaker, smiling maliciously. "Patricia!" Linda screamed through the phone. "How dare you deny a home to your husband's mother? After everything my son has done for you, everything he's prize." I couldn't help but laugh. "Linda, with all due respect, what exactly has Michael done for me? He gave you his last name. He made you a respectable woman. He gave you 2 beautiful children. He gave me his last name, which I never use professionally. He made me an exhausted woman who works double shifts, and we had the children together. He didn't give them to me like a gift." "Ma'am, I haven't said she can't come. I just set reasonable conditions. Conditions. Who do you think you are to give me conditions? That is my son's house. No, ma'am, this is my house, mine alone. And, if you want to live in it, It will be under my rules." "Michael!" his mother screamed. "You can't let her talk to you like that. Put that woman in her place." That's when Michael made the mistake that sealed his fate. "Don't worry, Mom. Tomorrow when you're here, things are going to change. Patricia is going to learn who really runs this house." "Are you threatening me?" I asked, taking out my own phone. "It's not a threat, it's a promise. When Mom is here, you're going to see how things work in a real family." I opened the recording app I had been using and stopped the recording. "Perfect. Now I have your threat. Recorded. Caroline is going to find this very useful." "You were recording me?" Michael turned pale. "Since this conversation started, it's legal in this state to record conversations you are a participant in. Another fact my lawyer gave me." Linda was still screaming through the phone, but I wasn't listening anymore. I addressed Michael one last time that night. "You have until noon tomorrow to decide. Either you cancel your mother's move and we start couples therapy to see if we can save this marriage, or I pack your bags and you leave with her. Your decision?" I went to sleep in the guest room that night with the door locked. I could hear Michael talking on the phone late into the night, probably with his siblings, with his mother, maybe with friends. I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt in control of my life. What would you have done in my place? Do you think I was too harsh? The truth is, I had been swallowing resentment for years, and that night it all came out. The next morning I woke up early and found Michael in the kitchen, with huge dark circles under his eyes, making coffee. He didn't look at me when I walked in. "Did you make a decision?" I asked, pouring my own coffee. "This isn't over," he muttered. "That's not an answer. I'm going to talk to a lawyer. I have rights. I've lived here for years. I've contributed." "Contributed what, exactly?" I interrupted. "I have all the receipts, Michael. All the bills paid with my card. All the deposits from my salary." "What are you going to show the lawyer? The 3 months you worked last year?" "I've been a father. I've taken care of the house." "You've been a father who sees his kids 2 hours a day because you prefer to be with your mother? And as for taking care of the house, when was the last time you cleaned a bathroom, cooked a full dinner, did the laundry?" He fell silent, gripping the coffee mug so hard I thought he would break it. "Mom is coming anyway," he finally said. "I already paid for the move." "Then I guess you made your decision," I replied, leaving my coffee on the table. "I'm going out with the kids. When I get back at 6 this evening, I expect you and everything that arrives with the movers to be gone. You can't kick me out. I have rights as a husband. I can, and I am. And if you don't leave peacefully, I have a temporary restraining order ready to be enforced, based on your threats from last night." Caroline prepared it early this morning. It was a partial bluff. Caroline had said we could get an order if needed, but we didn't have it yet. But Michael didn't know that. "This is illegal," he stammered. "No, Michael. What would be illegal is you staying on my property against my will. That's called trespassing." I left the kitchen and went to wake up the kids. I told them we were going to spend a special day together, just the 3 of us. Sarah, my oldest, looked at me with those wise eyes that preteens have. "Are you and Dad getting divorced?" she asked, as she got dressed. "It's complicated, honey. But no matter what, you two are going to be fine. I promise you." "Is it because of Grandma Linda?" she insisted. "I heard Dad yelling last night." "Sarah," I started, but she interrupted me. "Mom, Grandma Linda isn't nice to you. She always says mean things when Dad isn't around." "Daniel and I know." My heart broke a little, realizing my children had been noticing things I thought I had hidden well. We spent the day at the mall, at the movies, eating ice cream. I bought them a few things they had been wanting. It was my way of softening what I knew was coming. Throughout the day, my phone didn't stop ringing. Calls from Michael, from his siblings, from Linda, increasingly aggressive text messages. I didn't answer any, but I saved them all. More evidence for Caroline. When we got home at 6:15 p.m., the moving truck was in the driveway, but it was loading things, not unloading. Michael was at the door, with a face like a funeral, directing the workers. "What's going on?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "My brother Robert is going to let us stay at his house," he said without looking at me. "Temporarily." "I see. This isn't over, Patricia. I'm going to fight for what's mine." "Do it," I replied calmly. "But in the meantime, I need your keys." He looked at me with so much hatred that I took a step back. but he took out his keys and threw them at my feet. Dramatic, until the end. "Kids, say goodbye to your dad," I said, gently pushing Sarah and Daniel forward. "Dad is leaving?" Daniel, my little one, looked confused. "Just for a little while, champ," Michael said, hugging him. "Dad has to help. Grandma Linda, but I'll see you soon. Can we visit you?" Sarah asked, though her tone was more one of obligation than desire. "Of course, princess. Every weekend if you want." A lie. I knew it was a lie, and he knew I knew. But I wasn't going to expose my children to more drama than necessary. Linda appeared at that moment, getting out of the truck where she had apparently been supervising that her things weren't damaged. She looked at me as if she wanted to strike me dead with her gaze. "This isn't over," she hissed, repeating her son's words. "You're going to pay for this, Patricia. You'll see what happens when you mess with a united family." "Ma'am, I wish you the best," I replied with all the calm I could muster. "I hope you find a comfortable place to live." "You miserable witch," she started screaming. "Ungrateful. After everything, my son." "Mom, let's go." Michael interrupted her, taking her by the arm. "It's not worth it." As the truck pulled away, with Michael and his mother following in Michael's car, which, by the way, was also in my name, but I decided not to fight that battle that day, Sarah took my hand. "Mom, are you okay?" I looked at my two children, standing in the doorway of our house, my house, and for the first time in a long time, I could answer honestly, "Yes, honey, I'm okay. We're going to be okay." But the story doesn't end there. If this story already reminds you of something you've lived through, write to me in the comments. You are not alone in this. Because what came next was a battle I never imagined I'd have to fight. The first few days after Michael left were strangely peaceful. The kids adjusted faster than I expected, although Daniel asked about his dad every night before bed. I had returned to work, trying to maintain some normality in our lives. But the calm didn't last long. On Wednesday of that week, I received a call from Caroline, my lawyer. "Patricia, you need to come to my office. Your husband, he hired legal representation, and they're making some interesting demands." "What kind of demands?" "We better discuss this in person. Can you come this afternoon?" When I arrived at her office, Caroline had a serious expression that worried me immediately. "Michael is claiming the house is marital property," she began. "He says that even though it's in your name, he contributed with improvements, maintenance, and that due to the years of marriage, he has a right to half. But that's ridiculous. He never paid for anything." "I know. And we have the documents to prove it. But he's also alleging something more worrying. He's questioning your fitness." As a mother, I felt like ice water had been thrown on me. "What?" "He's saying you work too much, that you leave the children alone, that you have anger issues. He's using the incident from the other day as an example, saying you violently threw him out of the house in front of the children. That is a lie. The children weren't there when he left, we arrived after. Calm down, I know it's a lie. But we need to be prepared. He is also asking for spousal support." "Spousal support? Is he joking?" "He alleges he sacrificed his career to take care of the home while you worked, that he was the primary caregiver for the children." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Michael's audacity knew no bounds. "And his mother is behind this?" Caroline nodded. "From what I understand, she's financing the legal fees. Apparently, she has some savings she's willing to spend to, and I quote, put the harpy who destroyed her son in her place, period. The next 2 months were a legal and emotional hell." Michael had gotten a temporary visitation schedule, alternate weekends, and every time the kids came back from being with him, they were full of questions. "Dad says you kicked him out because you don't love him," Daniel told me one Sunday, at night. "Grandma Linda says you're mean and you don't want her to see her grandkids," Sarah added. I had to bite my tongue so many times I thought I'd cut it off. I didn't want to speak ill of their father in front of them, but I also couldn't let them believe those lies. "Sometimes adults have problems that are complicated to understand," I explained to them. "But what you must never doubt is that I love you, and everything I do is with your well-being in mind." The legal battle intensified when Michael presented evidence of my supposed failings as a mother. Photos of the kids alone in the house, taken when I was literally in the garden, testimony from Linda about the times she had seen the kids unattended when they were playing quietly while I cooked. They even tried to use my work hours against me. Caroline was brilliant in her defense. For every accusation, we had a rebuttal. We presented school records showing my active participation in my children's education, testimonies from teachers about my dedication as a mother, evidence of all the extracurricular activities I paid for and took them to. But the decisive moment came during a preliminary hearing when Michael's lawyer made a crucial mistake. Mrs. Patricia, Michael's lawyer interrogated me, an older man with a bulldog face. Isn't it true that you denied a home to a sick elderly woman? That's not true, I answered calmly. I offered for the woman to live in my house. Under certain reasonable conditions. Conditions? What right do you have to set conditions for your husband's mother? The right given to me by being the sole owner of the house, but it's the family home. It's my house. Bought with my money, paid for with my salary, maintained with my effort. Don't you consider that after 15 years of marriage, your husband has a right to that property? Based on what contribution? The lawyer seemed irritated. Mr. Michael has been a father, a husband. He has maintained the home. Do you have evidence of that? Caroline interrupted. Receipts? Proof of payment? Anything? Domestic work isn't documented, the lawyer started. But I do have documentation, I said, pulling out a folder Caroline had prepared. I have receipts from the cleaning lady who has come twice a week for 5 years because Michael said cleaning stressed him out. I have receipts for all the food delivery services because Michael didn't cook. I have the bills for the gardener, the plumber, the electrician, all paid by me because Michael didn't know how or didn't want to handle those things. The judge reviewed the documents with interest. I also have this, I continued, taking out my phone, text messages from Michael over the years, asking me for money for gas, for his lunch, for his personal expenses. Does a man who maintains the home need his wife to give him lunch money? Michael's lawyer tried to object, but the judge allowed the evidence. It was then that Linda, who had been sitting behind Michael, couldn't contain herself. She's a manipulator, she shouted, jumping up from her seat. A witch who has my son controlled. She forced him to ask for money to humiliate him. Ma'am, sit down or I'll have you removed from the courtroom, the judge warned. I will not be silent. That woman threw my son out of his own house. A wife cannot kick out her husband. Mrs. Linda, the judge said with forced patience. Is the house in your son's name? No, but did your son pay for the house? Marriage is about more than money. Ma'am, answer the question. Did your son contribute financially to the purchase or maintenance of the house? Linda looked at Michael, then at the lawyer, looking for help. My son is a good man who was manipulated by that, pointing at me. Enough. The judge banged his gavel. Ma'am, you are out of order. One more word and I will have you removed. But the damage was done. Linda's outburst had shown exactly the type of toxic environment that she and Michael wanted to bring into my home. The hearing continued, but the most revealing moment came when the judge asked Michael directly, Mr. Michael, can you explain to me exactly what your financial contributions to the household have been over the last 5 years? Michael shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Well, I've had some jobs. Can you be more specific? How much did you earn? How much did you contribute monthly? I don't have the exact figures. Caroline intervened. We do, Your Honor. Mr. Michael worked a total of 14 months in the last 5 years, earning an average of $1,800 a month when he worked. Of that money, according to bank records, he never deposited anything into the family account. Is that true, Mr. Michael? I had personal expenses. Personal expenses of $1,800 a month while your wife paid for everything? Michael didn't answer. The judge took notes and then turned to me. Mrs. Patricia, are you filing for divorce? Yes, Your Honor. And what are you asking for? I just want to keep what is mine, my house, primary custody of my children, and to establish a fair visitation schedule for their father. I'm not asking for alimony or anything else. I just want peace. The judge nodded and then looked at Michael. And what are you asking for? Michael's lawyer stood up. My client is asking for 50% of the value of the house, 5050 shared custody, and spousal support of $3,000 a month. I almost choked. $3,000 a month? 50% of my house? The judge reviewed more documents, and after what seemed like an eternity, he spoke. Based on the evidence presented, I see no basis for Mr. Scented. Michael's claim on the property. The house was purchased before the marriage, is solely in Mrs. Patricia's name, and there is no evidence of significant contributions from Mr. Michael that would justify a claim of marital property. Michael sank in his chair. As for custody, I see no evidence that Mrs. Patricia is an unfit mother. On the contrary, the evidence shows she has been the primary caregiver and provider for the children. I grant primary custody to the mother with a visitation schedule for the father every other weekend and half of school vacations. As for spousal support, the judge paused, looking directly at Michael. Sir, you are a grown man, capable of working. I see no reason why your ex-wife should support you. Request denied. But I will establish child support, Mr. Michael must pay $600 a month for both children, an amount based on his potential earning capacity, not his current employment status. But I don't have a job, Michael protested. Then I suggest you get one. You have 30 days to begin payments. When we left the court, Michael and his mother were waiting for me in the parking lot. This isn't over, Michael told me, his voice full of venom. Yes, Michael, it is over. Accept it and move on. You destroyed my son, Linda screamed. You're a snake. I wish you had never entered our lives. Mrs. Linda, I replied with all the calm I could muster. Your son destroyed himself when he decided he could make unilateral decisions about my property and threaten me in my home. I just defended myself. Defend? You left him on the street. I left him exactly where he put me all these years, alone, unsupported, having to solve everything on my own. The difference is, I was able to get ahead. Let's see if he can do the same. Caroline took my arm and pulled me away before the situation escalated further. It's been 3 months since that day in court. Michael got a job, miraculously, when he realized he would have to pay child support or go to jail. The kids see him every 2 weeks, although Sarah makes up more and more excuses not to go. It's just that Grandma Linda is always talking bad about you, Mom, she confessed one day. And Dad doesn't say anything. It's awkward. I documented that too, and my lawyer sent a cease and desist letter. If you continue to alienate the children, you will lose visitation. The house feels different now. Lighter, more peaceful. The kids can have friends over without worrying about their dad being in a bad mood or their grandmother making snide comments. I can come home from work without the anxiety of not knowing what domestic battle will be waiting for me. Have you had a mother-in-law? Like that? A husband who believed everything belonged to him just for existing? I'd love to know I'm not alone in this. A week ago, I got a message from Robert, Michael's brother. He wanted to meet with me to talk. I agreed, curious. Patricia, he said when we met at a cafe. I want to apologize. For not intervening sooner, for not telling Michael he was wrong, for letting my mother manipulate him all these years. Manipulate? Robert sighed. Michael was always her favorite. The baby of the family. Mom convinced him he was special, that he deserved everything without effort. She destroyed his first marriage the same way. First marriage? I almost spat out my coffee. You didn't know? Michael was married before he met you. It lasted 2 years. His ex-wife also kicked him out when Mom tried to move in with them. It's a pattern, Patricia. And I'm glad you were strong enough to break it. I was in shock. All this time, and I never knew there had been another one before me. Another woman who had gone through the same thing. Where is she now? I asked. She rebuilt. Her life. Married a good man, has kids, she's happy, like you will be. Robert was right. For the first time in years I could visualize a future where I was happy, where my decisions were respected, where my home was my sanctuary, where my children grew up seeing a strong mother who didn't let herself be walked over. Last week Daniel asked me, Mom, why doesn't Dad live here anymore? I had dreaded this question for months, but when it came, I knew exactly what to answer. Because sometimes, honey, people who love each other can't live together. Sometimes they have very different ideas about what life should be, and that's okay. Dad loves you, I love you, and that's never going to change. But you don't love Dad anymore? I love the dad who gave me you and your sister. But the person he became wasn't good for us, and sometimes self-love is more important than love for others. Daniel thought about it for a moment and then nodded. Like when I stopped being friends with Carlos because he kept hitting me. Exactly like that, honey. Yesterday, I received the final divorce papers. 15 years of marriage reduced to a legal document. But instead of sadness, I felt relief. Freedom. Hope. Michael is still living with his mother at Robert's house, although I heard there's already tension there too. Robert messaged me last week. Now I understand everything you went through. Mom is impossible, and Michael doesn't help at all. Part of me feels sorry for Michael. He's trapped in a cycle he created himself, dependent on a mother who disabled him for real life. But most of me knows it's not my problem to solve. I already spent 15 years trying to fix him, to compensate, to be the adult in the relationship. Now is my time. Time to focus on my career, which I had neglected for years. Time to be the mother my children deserve, without the constant stress of a childish husband and a toxic mother-in-law. Time to remember who I was before I lost myself in an unequal marriage. The house feels truly mine now. I changed the locks, of course, but I also made symbolic changes. I painted the walls, colors that I like, rearranged the furniture. I turned what was Michael's trophy room, where he kept his college stuff and half-finished projects, into an art room for the kids. Every corner I reclaim feels like getting a piece of myself back. What country are you watching this story from? Because I know this isn't just a problem in one place. Controlling mothers-in-law and husbands who think the world owes them everything exist everywhere. A few days ago, a coworker who is going through something similar asked me, "How did you get the courage?" I answered her with the truth. It wasn't courage. It was survival. It got to a point where staying would have meant disappearing. Completely. Becoming a ghost in my own life. And my children deserve to see a whole mother, not the pieces that were left after Michael and his mother took what they wanted. The road hasn't been easy. There have been nights where I doubted my decision, where the weight of being a single mother overwhelmed me. But then I see Sarah doing her homework at the dining table without fear of her father criticizing her for not being perfect. Or Daniel playing freely without worrying about his grandmother scolding him for making noise. And I know I made the right decision. The irony is that Michael could have had everything he wanted if he had been a real partner. If he had contributed, if he had respected, if he had seen our home as ours instead of just his. His mother could have lived with us if she had shown a minimum of gratitude or respect. But they both assumed I would always be there, always giving in, always sacrificing. They were wrong. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who also needs to hear it. In the comments, tell me, have you experienced something similar? What country are you watching from? I read all the comments because I know that every story shared is a woman finding her voice, a man learning to value, a family that heals. And for those who are in a similar situation, doubting if they have the right to defend themselves, to set boundaries, to say no more, I want you to know this, you do have that right. Your home, whether physical or metaphorical, belongs to you. Your peace of mind is valuable. Your dignity is non-negotiable. Don't let anyone, not a husband, not a mother-in-law, not society itself, tell you that you must accept less than you deserve. Because at the end of the day, as I learned the hard way, no one is going to defend your space, your peace, your worth if you don't do it first. This is Patricia, from my home, reminding you that sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't destroying the other person, but simply refusing to be destroyed. Protecting what is yours, defending your territory, and letting those who wanted to take advantage face the consequences of their own decisions. Because in the end, Michael and his mother didn't lose because of my revenge. They lost because they assumed my kindness was weakness, that my patience was infinite, that my love meant I would accept anything. They were wrong. And now they live with the consequences of that mistake, while I live in peace in the house I built, with the children I love, and with my dignity intact. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. And it felt incredibly good.